You were on the male maximum security unit at Napa State Hospital. Can you describe how to deal with somebody who's escalating into increasing levels of violence?
Yes. Um, I went through the ranks at Napa State Hospital to go from psychiatric nurse to senior psychiatric nurse, which means that you are in charge of all shifts on that particular unit. During my tenure there, I found it very interesting that some staff members that came to my unit were actually very well trained and were very aware of where they were and how they should act. However, it did not work for them. And my interest in psychiatry, which later led to my PhD, has always been, why can some people get along with these people and others cannot? Some of my thoughts on that go way back to even my being raised in Germany, when I witnessed how people would fall for a certain leader, whether he is negative or positive. I found that the approaches that I used were almost foolproof, because it is like when you're raising a child and a child begins to go into a period of aggression. You don't put up a wall for them. You let it flow, and you take this flow and you direct it. Very much the thought as you find in the sport Aikido, where if somebody comes towards you, you don't block them, you direct them to go to another area. In the male maximum security unit, we had patients at that point that were put there because they couldn't make it in prison. They were too dangerous to be around other prisoners. The unit was relatively small. The patients had private rooms, a large hallway, and a nurse's station in the center of the unit that could be closed or locked with actually shatterproof glass. During the entire time that I was in charge of that unit, I never closed the door, because I found that by isolating yourself, you're already giving a message. You're giving the message to the person, you're dangerous and I'm afraid of you. And I found that in dealing with them the same way you deal with a child that is working his way up to a period of aggression. You let it go with the flow, and you only intervene with a certain amount of reasoning and of understanding, and finding the cause of what is causing them to escalate.
So would you use just verbal techniques to depressurize someone?
And not even necessarily verbal techniques, but the human touch is extremely important in those cases. Like, you see somebody escalating, you walk up to them and you put your hand on their arm or on their shoulder and say something like, it seems to me like you're becoming a little upset about something. Can you share this with me? What is going on with you? That's usually very effective, because usually the aggression is triggered by the inability to communicate that there's something wrong that I cannot deal with. And when the people cannot deal with this, they usually rely on physical aggression, as we see over and over again in the news. A lot of, often you will hear like, well, somebody was aware that this person was angry and aggressive, but it is not being dealt with. And this was one of my major points in interviewing and keeping staff on the unit that was able to not block the aggression or not put up the wall, but encourage expression of what is really going on.
So would you encourage someone to talk, even if they're escalating, even if the talk seems to be making them more upset?
And It usually does not. If you never block what it is that they're saying, and I remember one incident where I had a carpet beater, one of those, I don't know if people even use them anymore, it's made out of straw. I had one in the office, and I was talking to a patient who was escalating and escalating, and he started to pound the desk with his fist, and I said, you know, if you keep doing that, you might hurt your hand. Why don't you use this? And he took this carpet beater and he just smashed it around. And by the time he got through and my carpet beater was gone, he was feeling a lot better.
What if somebody just continues to escalate, and what if there's nothing you can do? What was the kind of response that you would give?
I had a couple of employees there that were physically very strong, but they were strongly encouraged to never use it. Um, I think simply by their presence, it inhibited aggressiveness from the patients. And the other thing is, if everything you tried is not leading to anything, we did have medications available, but we would never sneak up on them and give them a shot. We would say, you know, I really think it would be helpful if you took this now, because maybe we can then talk about it later. And it should be with the patient's agreement.
Okay, thank you very much.